Hello, everyone. It's me, Maya. I just thought I'd do a little Q&A video to, commemorate the channel hitting a 300K subscriber milestone. So I guess I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's been such a nice couple years with all of you guys. Yeah, it's been a really nice couple years, and I'm just very grateful for all of you. So let's begin. I have one smart one and one dumb one. Smart one, if you could make a video on any movie or topic where the internet wouldn't yell at you, what would you pick? I would honestly probably make a video about Princess Diaries. I don't know. I just really I would love to talk about it. But it's what am I going to say? All I have to say is that I really like it. I don't think the internet would necessarily yell at me. I can't really think of a video topic at the moment that would get me canceled. I'm going to think about this for a while. I think many of the videos I've posted have been ones where I'm like, this could get me canceled. And then it kind of sometimes half does. For the dumb question, what is your fave lip product? I'm obsessed with your makeup style. No one has ever said this to me in my life. I am god awful at doing makeup. I have hooded eyes, so it's really difficult to actually do nice eyeliner. So I just kind of gave up years ago. I think I just don't have a very delicate hand. So I do my makeup as simply as possible, but I'm so flattered. Thank you for saying that. I like to wear this lip liner. What's it called? It's the Rimmel London Lasting Finish Lip Liner, and the product I've kind of sharpened it over the years, so I can't really read the label, but it's in wine color. I'm just gonna do this. This is what beauty YouTubers do, and I just kind of put it on the outside of my lips. I think I learned it from a Vogue video. You put it on the outside of your lips and you blend it in slightly. And then I just put this Nivea Watermelon Shine lip balm over top. Okay, let's try this. I'm not built for this. Do you have any favorite books at the moment? I've read I had a period last year where I was trying to get back into recreational reading because I kind of stopped when I was in school because I don't know, I was just burnt out. Two of the books that I really stuck out to me. One was called Indelicacy by Amina Kane, and it's basically, I don't want to explain it too much or over explain it. It's just this really interesting kind of ghostly short novel about this woman who I think starts off kind of as a peasant, and it's just about her love for writing. And you don't really know what time and place the book is operating in, but it seems to have these kind of Victorian constructs. It's very fascinating. I just highly recommend you read it. I don't even know how to describe it to anyone, but I really, really loved it. And then the other book I read that I really liked it's called The Great Believers by Rebecca Makkai. It's pretty famous, I think, but it's just about, it's kind of like an elegy, not an elegy, that's not the right word. I don't know, just kind of this ethnography of the AIDS crisis in Chicago in the 80s, kind of the 80s moving into the 90s. And you follow this character who's just this lovely, lovely character named Yale, and you just kind of fall in love with him. And it's just a beautiful but insanely devastating novel. Very well written. Yeah, I highly recommend that. What do you think about the A24 discourse on the internet? Am I out of the loop? I actually don't know what the discourse is, so I don't have any thoughts about it. I like A24. I don't know. I heard Disney was gonna buy the rights to them a while ago. I don't know if that's still followed through, or buy the company. Yeah, I actually have no idea. I like them. Would be interested in your thoughts on the strengths and limitations of the video essay as a genre. I would say the strength of the video essay is its ability to kind of make these super lofty ideas very accessible to very large audiences. It's a very much a mass platform on YouTube to disseminate all these ideas. I've had a lot of people reach out and be thank you so much. I'm learning. I feel inspired to go read more on this subject, or just people saying that maybe they didn't have the chance to go to university. It's interesting to at least get to know these ideas. Yeah, in an easy way. I still think I could work on making my videos a bit more accessible in terms of language. We're working on it. And then I think the limitations, okay, I guess what comes with making these very accessible and on such a large platform is that they're not peer reviewed. So if you're in academia writing a work or an essay, it's either being marked by a prof, or if you're higher up, it's getting peer reviewed by other academics to, check your work. and make sure that it's, factual, make sure that it's sound, logically sound. No one's doing that on YouTube. No one's doing that in the video essay community. So like I could literally say whatever the fuck I want and no one will check me for it. I mean, people will in the comments and they do, but there is kind of the danger of spreading misinformation. I've been trying to start talking about film critically too, and I want to know how you approach it. Do you research on all aspects of a film you find interesting, or do you already have something in mind that you'd like to further develop on? I initially start with an idea that one is kind of like salient, so like, pressing at the moment or is getting buzz at the moment. And then I kind of also want to make sure that it's a topic that I'm interested enough in to think about for many, 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 many hours and have to write about and edit about. And, you don't want to get burnt out with a topic too quickly. You don't want to get bored of it. So you kind of want those two things, like a mixture of salience and a mixture of something that you yourself are interested in. The other question is also, what are some films and shows you would never talk about on your channel, like ones that you love and can't bear to take apart, or just ones you don't even think are worth it? I don't really have much interest in talking about like prestige television. At least like current prestige television, because it's like, yeah, it's good. I don't know. There's not really much else to say. Like, it's just good. Unless I have some sort of like, unless it's a bit of a phenomenon, like a pop culture phenomenon. But yeah, typically it's like, yeah, what am I going to say about The Bear? The Bear, it's just good. It's just like a good show. That's all there is to say. So there's nothing to really like critically analyze very much. I could talk about how great it is, but for me, that's not something that I'm going to be interested enough in. Again, relating back to the last question, to write about for hours. I just watched your fast fashion video a couple days ago after missing it at the end of last year. I was incredibly impressed with seeing your guys' writing take shape in covering a different medium, fashion instead of film for that one. Do you have plans to cover other things outside of a film, or is it more of a spur of the moment idea that eventually gets transformed into a thesis like that one was? Also, what is your coffee order? There are a few kind of, I don't know, like political concepts or philosophical concepts that, I'd like to cover. It just kind of depends on like whether or not I'm interested in it for that month. My thesis for my master's was on voluntourism, and kind of like the visual culture of voluntourism on the internet. And I have a lot to say about that. I kind of brought some of those ideas into my fast fashion video, but there's so much more to say. It'd be cool to make a video on that. It just depends on like when is necessary to make it. I've also thought about making a video on the concept of like violence and political violence and what that's all about. Walter Benjamin has a really interesting essay on the concept of violence. I thought it'd be interesting to use. I don't know, we'll see down the line. And you kind of have to think of like the right angle to approach it from. My coffee order, when I go to Tim Hortons, if it's in the summer, I order an ice cap. It's like a disgusting, unhinged thing to do. Like ice caps are like an ungodly beverage to be drinking, but that is what I do. And then I'll get an everything bagel toasted with cream cheese. Typically at any other cafe, I don't really drink caffeine. It makes me jittery. So at any other cafe, I'll just get kind of like a decaf Americano with cream or an iced decaf Americano with cream. So yeah. I've always loved film, but never been able to discuss it critically. Are there seminal texts to read? How do I get started? So I don't really, the texts that I use in my videos aren't predominantly film theory texts a lot of the time. Most of the time they're kind of like more cultural studies based. Sometimes they are film theory, it just kind of depends. But these are kind of some film theory / cultural studies, like essays and books I can recommend. So, there's Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema by Laura Mulvey. There's Television and Sound by Rick Altman, Reification and Utopia in Mass Culture by Frederick Jameson, literally anything by Stuart Hall. His encoding and decoding model in particular is really interesting in terms of like the concept of reading media. Dziga Viertov, We Variant of a Manifesto. That's like, I think the first ever, or one of the first ever film theory writings that have ever been used. I kind of talked about it in my Licorice Pizza video a bit. There's Georg Lukács, I hope I'm saying his name right. Thoughts on an Aesthetics of Cinema is good. And then, I'm obsessed with Walter Benjamin, so The Work of Art in the Age of Technological Reproducibility, but he also has a ton of other great works that you can read. How do you balance the ambition to get views with content that's authentic to you? Is it ever in harmony? Also, if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing? About like a year ago or like last year, I kind of tried to balance it with like 1 month it'd be a really salient, like popular topic, and another month it's something that I'm just like a big nerd about. Now it's starting to kind of blend more and more. I think the more comfortable I get for some reason with the channel and like with being online. the more those two things seem to blend. I don't know if I've just kind of gotten into the swing of things. And yeah, in terms of if I wasn't doing this, oh my God, I don't know. I'd probably be having like an existential crisis about like what I spent the last 6 years in school for. So there'd be that. Maybe I don't know. My mom really wanted me to be in politics. I did political science for my undergrad. Or honestly, most of my friends work in the film industry, so maybe like trying to get a job as a PA. I don't know. I don't know where I'd be. I'm happy I'm here though. I'm enjoying it. What do you do when you are feeling down? I tend to watch a lot of comfort shows when I'm down, which usually results in me watching The Office for like the 7,000th time. I don't know. It's just kind of something to turn your brain off and just like feel. It's like a warm hug of a show. Sometimes I knit. That's usually in the winter. I'm not a good knitter. I'll just knit like literally like the shittiest, stringiest scarf you've ever seen. Or I don't know, I'll call my mom if I'm feeling very down. She's usually pretty helpful. Or, you know, if I'm really in my head or anxious, I like to exercise. I do like a lot of Pilates because I'm like a 45-year-old woman, wine mom. Is it easier or harder making and publishing a video for an audience of 300K or 10K? Is there more pressure with a larger fan base or audience, or do you feel a kind of buoyancy due to the continued rise in subscriber audience? At first, like when you first kind of start blowing up on YouTube, you're like, wow, I actually kind of really miss having a smaller audience. There's just like, yeah, there's way less pressure. And then you kind of just get like bulldozed with like random trolls online or people who don't like your content or who bully you. And so you're kind of like, oh, I miss that. But over time, you kind of start to get the swing of things and you start to develop kind of like a brand identity. People become more and more familiar with you and comfortable with you just as you get comfortable with yourself. So now I kind of feel like I'm in the swing of things. And I also just take things less to heart these days. So I'm actually fine with making videos for a large audience. I don't know, maybe if I was at 1 million, it would be different. But like, I'm pretty happy with the number I have now. I'm comfortable with that. I think it just takes time. What, in your opinion, is a dying art in film and TV? I think posters and theme songs have largely gone to crap. Love your videos. Interesting about the posters and theme songs. I haven't actually thought about that. Okay, this is probably alarmist, and I actually don't think it is dead. Like, I'm sure that there's a ton of great stuff coming out that, like, this is just something I've been kind of observing a lot recently. But it kind of feels like scores and very intentional soundtracks are kind of dying out. I feel like I've just been watching a lot of popular media recently where they just kind of like blast top 40 songs that are like not very relevant to the media itself, like to the work. I don't know, like I'm thinking like of Pam and Tommy, for instance. Like, first of all, I have a lot of problems with the show. I thought it was whatever. I thought it was really mediocre. But also, it just felt like the director was blasting all of these like 70s songs over the show, and I was like, okay, well, we're in the 90s. I don't think Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee are like necessarily icons of this music, so it's like very strange that this music's playing, but it kind of feels like it's a trend right now to be playing like whatever Steely Dan. Oh my God, is that the name? Steely Dan. What's that song? I'm a fool to do your dirty. You know that one? It feels like every single fucking show plays that song because it's just like a trend. Euphoria season 2 kind of did the same thing, and I was like, where are these songs coming from? Whereas like the first season had used, you know, like that amazing Labyrinth soundtrack score. I don't know, or like, you know, Booksmart, for example, is a movie that, I don't know, it just feels like the loudest possible top 40 music just playing over the entire movie. Like there's barely a moment of silence. It feels like the score is barely present, like, or there's not a focus enough on it. And it just really took me out of it. Like, I just didn't think it was very, like, artistic or, like, intentional. I don't know. So that's, like, my personal opinion. I don't know if it's dying, per se, but that's just something I've been observing. What's a bad movie that you love? And in contrast, what's a good movie that you don't like, don't get at all? Ooh, that is such a good question. I mean, Showgirls is a very obvious answer for the bad movie. I think I've made Showgirls my entire personality at this point. If I could do a video on it every single fucking month, I would. But another, you know, god-awful movie that I can think of is Vibrations. It was this movie made in 1996. For some reason, it has Christina Applegate in it, which is so strange. I feel like she was at the height of her career. And it's like about this guy. I'm gonna insert the trailer, like a piece of the trailer here, because I think it's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
You do have hands. They're not the ones you were born with, but they're hands. Now, we're going to start with the basics.
No way. First time I took a piss, I almost busted my balls. I understand. You want the thrill of your life?
God, DJ, no!
I'm sorry. I thought I said I'm sorry.
The only thing that you're sorry for is yourself. And you have very aggressive energy, and I find it very hard to sympathize with you.
Oh, shit! Get away from there, you dumb Alfie! What are you doing? Don't touch that, you dumb Stop! What are you doing, you...
I didn't know the worst part about drinking was quitting.
So, TJ, what's your story? Lost your hands, nothing to live for?
He was a musician, Simeon.
Whoa.
So, you know anything about techno?
No.
We are about to embark on the total rave head trip. You do not need drugs to go on his ultimate groove. Cyberstar!
I watched it with my friends last year, my roommates and like our whatever partners, and it was just like the funniest experience. We were laughing the entire time. You can make a drinking game out of it. Like, I just think it's the funniest thing. It's amazing. It's amazing. And then in terms of like a movie that I think a lot of people think is good, but I truly didn't like. I mean, okay, Spencer is one of them. I really, really didn't like Spencer. It felt like everyone in the theater with me was like enraptured by it. And my friends and I, like, okay, this is awful, but we were definitely just like stifling laughter the entire time, which is terrible. I feel really guilty about it. I don't usually do that, but it was like I was actually having trouble containing myself because that's how ridiculously bad I found it. And another one is Booksmart. Everyone loves Booksmart. I can recognize, like, I know why people like it. I just, like, really didn't like it, and I don't know what it is. I love Beanie Feldman, but it just felt like the movie was, like, trying too hard. I don't know what it was. I kind of also felt like it was trying to be, like, the female Superbad. I know it has more merits to it than that. This is what I mean. It's, like, a very personal opinion, but yeah, I don't know. Sorry. I'd love to know more about your process of how you edit your videos and how your team works. Who does what? Who is on it? What are they like? I have a team of people. Okay, if I could kind of percentage it, I would say I do about 90% of the work for the channel. Like, ultimately, the channel is my channel. It's my brand that I created. It's the thing I do full time. Everyone else who works for me is like, it's very part-time for them. I would say my friend Hannah does like the absolute most work for the channel. She lives with me. So yeah, but then I have other people as well. I'm really blessed and fortunate to be surrounded by one, really, really, really smart people, and two, very artistically driven people. I alluded to it earlier, but like a lot of my friends are in the film industry. And a lot of them went to art school with me. So like they all just have these like immense talents that are just, I would just love to work with and collaborate with. So I like to collaborate with people I know. So yeah, typically our process is that I'll start out with an idea, and I'll typically pitch it to Hannah and Sarah. Sarah is my other friend who helps me a lot. I'll pitch it to them. Sometimes Hannah helps me come up with the idea, like her and I ideate the idea together. So there are some videos that she's kind of been at the forefront of as well, or like videos that are very close to her. And then, you know, I'll get them to kind of help me research, so I'll delegate like different topics for them to research. So I'll put Hannah on like researching like articles and like cultural stuff, and Sarah usually more on like the film theory stuff or like just theory heavy stuff, because she was kind of still in school at the time that she started. And then the first half of the month, I'll spend writing the video because that just kind of takes a long time. And then I'll send it to Sarah to edit and sometimes to Hannah. And then in terms of production, it used to be just me and Hannah, but that ended up being kind of rough because like two people cannot just do a production. My productions are very small. They're just like these little in-person clips, but it's like there's so many things to be keeping track of, like the sound, the camera, you're going out of focus, your sound isn't working, whatever. So now I have my friends Aiden, Seb, and Maddie who are helping me. Aiden and Maddie are a couple. They're so awesome and sweet. And Aiden, like, they both work in the film industry. Maddie works in lighting, and Aiden kind of works more in like cinematography and camera. And then my friend Seb as well, who's like a brilliant writer and also kind of dabbles in the film industry as well and has made a lot of his own films. He helps with the sound. Yeah, that's where we're trying to go from there, but it's a very new group of people. And sometimes my friend Ellie helps me as well. She was in the method acting video. And then I'll timestamp the script. So like this is the most tedious part. Me, Hannah, sometimes I'll get Hannah and Sarah to help me, but we'll basically source clips and source footage and put it within the script. And then the rest of the month is me just frantically fucking editing, just crunching, exhausting myself for hours. And then the video comes out and I'm exhausted. And yeah, that's typically how it works. It typically takes a full month, which is like, I know seems like a long time. It doesn't to me. What are your hobbies and interests outside of films and television? Would you ever consider making videos pertaining to them if applicable? I find it's really hard to define like what your hobbies are as an adult. I don't know. It just makes it sound like you have no skills. I don't know. I like reading. I like listening to podcasts. I hang out with friends. I like getting cocktails with the girlies. In the summer, I like swimming. I don't know. And then the other question is, are you secretly Charlotte Gainsbourg? I can't tell if you're saying I look like Charlotte Gainsbourg. I don't think we share any physical similarities. Maybe like philosophically I'm like Charlotte Gainsbourg, in which case I'd be like very flattered, but no, I'm not Charlotte Gainsbourg. What's your process for researching your videos? I'm always so impressed with all your sources. Can Duff tell you got great grades on your essays in uni? And then, do you have any tips for researching? If you use databases for research, what databases do you use most often, etc., etc.? Yeah, I don't know. I learned very much in university to skim things. That is what they teach you, or that's like what I kind of got taught. You skim a reading, you skim an article for the general gists and ideas. So I never like to spend too much time on one reading. But that's typically how we do it. I'll just like search a keyword pertaining to like the topic that I'm interested in. And the databases we use, I mean, at the moment we use JSTOR. You can make like a free account. You get 99 free articles a month, I think. Google Scholar we use a lot. Previously I was using my university library, but of course they kick you right out of there the second you graduate, so I don't have it anymore. Sarah now kind of provides those types of readings from her school library. You've mentioned before that you're in grad school. Can you tell us more about what you study or what you did study and how you chose to find your program? So I did graduate last August. But I majored in a program called Communication and Culture, so it's kind of a mixture of communications and cultural studies. It's basically media studies. And I chose it out of pure fear. I took a year off after my undergrad and I was like, oh my god, I have no structure in my life, and I was very lucky that it ended up being something I fell in love with. The program was very cool, it was fully funded, and I made a lot of friends. It was really nice. What was the hardest video to create in terms of editing and topic that really challenged or unsettled you? The hardest video for editing was the Love Island video. If you think about it, there are like, 7 seasons of the show, or there were at the point that I was writing it. There's like 50, 60 episodes a season. Nothing super distinguishable happens in every episode. Like, it's very slice of life. So we were like going through every single episode of that show and sourcing moments from it. And it's like a long video. It was insane. Like the amount of clips I ended up having to source was like 500. It was insane. It was so exhausting, very rewarding. I love the video. In terms of hardest for topic, it was either the fast fashion video or the licorice pizza video, because 1, they were both about like slightly controversial topics, and 2, I was kind of taking a controversial stance on those controversial topics. So yeah, I would say those. What do you think of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I don't like it. Sorry. I know that makes people mad. I think it's artless. I don't judge people who like it, but I don't like it. It's not for me. Have you had an epiphany moment or, oh shit, why hadn't I seen it this way before moment while crafting an essay for this channel? I honestly have that with every single video I make. Every single video I make, I'm like, holy shit. That's usually how I come to my conclusion, because I kind of like to write in stream of consciousness a little bit. So while you're writing, you're kind of having these, you're like realizing things. So it's just all about realizing things. How different is the experience of watching a film for the channel and watching a film for pleasure? Do you find yourself getting lost with films you're trying to take notes for a video? And conversely, do you ever feel unable to immerse yourself in a film because you can't help but analyze even on your days off? Unfortunately, I take honestly everything I consume as fodder for content, which is awful. But honestly, I was already really overcritically of the media I consumed anyways, so it hasn't really been too awful for me. Everything's for the channel. How did you learn to be such an effective communicator and storyteller? You write beautiful video essays. Thank you, that is very kind. You're all so sweet in these questions. I don't know. I really liked writing growing up. I've always really had a passion for writing. I don't know, my dad's like notorious for telling stories, a lot of stories. So maybe I learned it from him. I don't know. In your opinion, how can music add to a viewing experience? Do you have any favorite moments from television or film where music plays a role? That's honestly a really good question. I think music, or the absence of music, is of the utmost importance at all times for setting like the atmosphere, the mood of a scene. Okay, so for example, if you were to watch the title sequence of The Shining without music, you would come away from it with an entirely different experience and mood. Put the music on it and you're absolutely terrified. So, I don't know. In terms of my favorite music moments, these are probably gonna be so basic. They're just the only ones I can like really remember, like the ones that stick out to me. Sunshine of Your Love and Goodfellas, that moment where Robert De Niro's like plotting murder and Sunshine of Your Love plays. Great. I really love the music in the Uncut Gems trailer. I don't know, I watched that trailer so many times, like the way they just mix the sound for it, and it's like that Weekend, I think, Travis Scott song. I don't know, it's so good. The intro sequence for Drive, like the use of Night Call. All the music in Drive, honestly, is amazing, but the intro sequence is just very good. Or the shootout scene in Thief. I have a video that's about those two films. They're very similar. But the shootout scene at the end of Thief is amazing. Season 1 of Euphoria, I think, I said this in my Euphoria video, but like is so good at this, like blending score and soundtrack with like the diegetic elements like of the show itself. Amazing. Those are all super basic. I'm sure I could think of other ones if I thought about it a little bit harder, but this is just what comes to mind. What is your stance on television or movies that depict, perhaps without their consent, real-life people and the horrifying, traumatizing events that they've experienced? My Letterboxd review of Spencer should honestly tell you everything you need to know about my opinion on this. Can you describe a little bit your pop culture background? Like what films and series you grew up with? What are the celebrities you identified yourself to? I was a diehard Anne Hathaway fan growing up. I thought we were the same person. I thought we were literally indistinguishable in appearance. I was like 8. So I don't know, I was raised on like a healthy blend of like Princess Diaries, The Devil Wears Prada, every single Bollywood like romance movie from the 90s, and for some reason Guy Ritchie's Snatch. Like I watched that a lot growing up with my dad. So those were all very formative for me. Those were all important. I don't know if you already answered this, but what are some of your favorite musical artists and albums of all time? I tend to listen to like songs rather than albums because I'm kind of a music philistine. Like I feel like I have pretty good taste in music, but I'm not like a music head. So this is kind of a hard question to answer. I don't think the ones I'm gonna say here are like a very good example. Like I kind of like all types of genres in music. So I'm gonna name these and they're all like, I feel like there's like a through line between them, but these are the albums I can think of that I really like. Okay, so like right off the bat, I love Norman fucking Rockwell by Lana Del Rey. It's great. Heaven or Las Vegas by the Cocteau Twins is great. Grace by Jeff Buckley. The amount of times I've cried to Jeff Buckley is really embarrassing. Nancy and Lee by Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood is an amazing album. 5 by Salt. They're like kind of like this anonymous group. Amazing album. I'm sure Spotify's recommended it to you. Child Queen by Claudia Bonet is great. And Black Messiah by D'Angelo is something that I listened to so much in high school. And I loved it. There's definitely more that I could probably think of, but that's all I've got for this video. You always mention interesting books. Would you ever start a public Goodreads for people to follow along with what you're reading? I have one, I don't use it enough, but it's Broy's Books. I'll link it in the description. I've written like a few book reviews on there, but I'm just so bad at committing to things. Do y'all plan to do a season 2 of Mothership? It was a nice podcast and the opening was awesome. I probably can't say too much. Season 2 is being filmed this summer, but I'm going to be out of the country for it, so I'm actually missing out, which is a huge, huge bummer, but it's going to be great, so definitely still watch it. It was very fun to make, very exciting meeting Dylan and Amanda and Bruno. Yeah, it was really nice. Do you like musicals? If so, what are some of your favorites? Stage and film versions are both acceptable. I was obsessed with musicals as a tween. Like, I did music theater lessons. Really, really embarrassing. But yeah, I don't know, the ones I really liked, I don't know, I probably had pretty basic taste in them. Like I really liked Spring Awakening. I think it was kind of like buzzing when I was younger. It was kind of like a big trendy thing. So I liked Spring Awakening. Chicago, I know every single monologue in Cell Block Tango and the musical bits. And Les Miserables, I loved it. I was one of those people who really liked the movie, which I know no one does. And looking back, obviously, I don't think it's as good as I thought it was, but I really liked it. How do you reckon with the fact that your videos impact people and their point of view? Do you ever worry that you're actually making a harmful argument despite your best intentions? Yeah, I obviously worry about misinforming people, like I kind of said earlier, but I also just kind of come to terms with like relying on audience critical thinking abilities, knowing that, you know, I'm not like an official source. I'm also not really like an organization. A lot of this is just coming from me, so there is a lot of room for human error. I try my best to correct myself in like my pinned comments. Obviously it doesn't always work out, but I'm gonna be wrong pretty often. Like there's so much room for error. I try my best to be as factually accurate as possible, like, and that's what Hannah and Sarah are so helpful for. But again, even just three of us, like we're never gonna be perfect. So I do rely on people to kind of understand that. Did your personal and professional lives change after becoming a micro celebrity or public figure, or you may be apprehensive at first about putting your face in your videos? My personal life has kind of only changed in the sense that I have a much more stable income now. Like I was very broke as a student, like working minimum wage jobs. So now it's, you know, it's definitely nice. Sometimes I run into people and they're like, I love your channel. And I'm like, So that's definitely changed. My friends are always like, oh my god, micro celebrity. But it's a lot. And yeah, I was very, very apprehensive of putting my face out there, just like for privacy reasons, you know, being a woman on the internet. Are you more extroverted or introverted? Do you socialize a lot? Do you have many friends or acquaintances? Bonus, can you tell I'm not a social person and wish I was? I'm extremely extroverted. I think I make friends pretty easily, and I personally get a lot of energy from hanging out with people, being around people a lot. Obviously I need my like alone time, and I get that. But for the most part, yeah, I think I would describe myself as an extrovert. Not everyone is super social or feels like rejuvenated by hanging out, and I don't think that's something to be ashamed of. Like, that's okay. How do you go about networking with your fellow awesome YouTubers? I'm an avid, to a fault, YouTube consumer who has just started a channel and wondering if there's anything special going on with the networking betwixt you and some other channels. Weird and hell just off the top of my head. I think the networking comes pretty organically. I do have a Discord with some YouTube people that's been so awesome and helpful. Everyone on it is so sweet, and we've all gotten to kind of like know each other in a professional sense on there. I kind of started it last year when I was kind of dealing with a lot of hate for one of my videos, and I just needed like a support network because, you know, at the end of the day, no one can really understand what that experience is unless they've gone through it. So that was really beneficial to make that and kind of create a community. A lot of the other networking that I do is kind of, I guess, on Twitter, but I don't think I'm ever actively trying to be like hustling, trying to get to know everyone. Like it just happens naturally. Weir and Hell and I, yeah, became friends through Twitter, I think. Or actually, I think we like matched on Hinge also, which is kind of funny. Who do you aesthetically look up to? As in someone you like the look of, whether it be hair, clothing, sense of style. That is a secret I will never tell. No, but honestly, all of my friends are very, very fashionable and well-dressed and amazing and beautiful. So I would say a lot of it does just come from them. Obviously, there's people I follow on Instagram, but that's a magician never reveals her secrets. How old are you? Where are you from? What your upbringing was like leading to your interest in film and movies? I am 25. I am from Canada. And I don't know, my upbringing, I don't know, I was raised by kind of two parents who, I don't know, they're boomers, they're a bit older, and they kind of, I don't know, they clubbed a lot in the 80s and raised me on a lot of these like weird ambient soundscapes. And yeah, I was raised by a dad who watches like a movie a night, so I grew up around that a lot. I don't know, I think I did my parents such a disservice with that description. They're amazing, and they also have aged really, really well. Like, they both look so good, so congrats to them. What's your favorite Spice Girl? When I was younger, it used to be Ginger, because I was like, she's so different. But now it's Posh, because I think we hated Posh a lot growing up, and I think she got a bad rap, but she's actually so funny. If you watch Spice World, you're like, damn, Victoria, funny girl. Your video on the film Kids was taken down from YouTube because of its subject matter. Are there any topics you've considered making a video about but find it difficult to release with the strict guidelines? Yes. YouTube over the years has become incredibly puritanical with the way that they censor content. It's all in the name of children, but at the end of the day, like, there's a YouTube Kids for children, and then there's YouTube for people who are adults. So, like, it just feels really counterintuitive and ridiculous to me. But yeah, a video that I would like to do, I would love to make a video on like exploitation films, the genre, but that would immediately get age restricted, which is like the worst thing that can happen to your videos. It's happened to 2 of mine. And I'd love to make one on erotic thrillers because I find that such a fascinating genre. Like, it's so interesting. I love so many of them. It'd be so cool to make a video about. But again, age restricted. Who's a super popular writer or director that you can't stand artistry-wise? I hate Adrian Lyne. That's a harsh word. I don't know him personally. I hate him from an artistic basis. I don't like his movies. I think they're just this beautiful mixture of like boring and misogynistic. And then I used to be a big defender of him, but honestly over time I've become more and more irritated with Sam Levinson. And then the 2 of them teamed up for Deep Water, that movie with Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas, which was god fucking awful, and it confirmed all of my opinions. So yeah, sorry. I don't like hating on people's work too much. I know stuff goes into that, but no, it's a no. Favorite type of aesthetic, cottagecore, academia, etc. This is gonna be controversial, I feel like. I don't love Gen Z's like propensity to label like literally every like fashion thing that happens, because sometimes, you know, like you just like enjoy wearing something or it's something that you've worn for years, and then all of a sudden on TikTok it gets named and becomes a trend that gets co-opted by like fast fashion retailers, and your entire like style goes out of fashion basically. I've been talking about this a lot with my friend about bloke core, because like he has a buzzed head and he likes wearing jerseys, like soccer jerseys, and all of a sudden there's a thing called bloke core, and now his entire like all the stuff he just likes to wear because he genuinely enjoys soccer is now like a trend that's going to be commodified basically. My friends disagree with me on this, but I don't know. I've been thinking about making a video on it for a while now about like the death of subcultures. I wrote an essay on it that I put on my Patreon. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like meaning has been lost. Like the meaning that we attach to garments is kind of gone now by placing these like aesthetic markers on trends. But at the same time, like, I do think it is probably mostly harmless. It's just a me thing. Maybe it's a bit reactionary. So I don't know. I haven't made up my mind about it. Dark academia. Any thoughts on Terrence Malick and his filming style? I'm actually not really familiar enough with Terrence Malick to make a judgment about this, but I do have a friend in the industry who said this kind of thing that I thought was really interesting. He said that ever since Terrence Malick made The Tree of Life, every single commercial director has basically just copied his style, like just ripped it. And I don't know, do you guys agree with that? Do you consider yourself to be a cinephile? Have you seen the work of all these great directors? No, I don't consider myself to be a cinephile. I actually like, you know, making videos on like bad movies half the time. But I have seen and appreciate the work of all these men. I just made a video kind of about Ingmar Bergman, and I love Stalker by Tarkovsky. I don't know. I like a lot of movies from these people, but I'm not a cinephile. What's your favorite movie soundtrack of all time? Favorite soundtrack, I think, would either be Thief, that Tangerine Dream soundtrack from Thief, or the Air soundtrack from Virgin Suicides. Just because it's like they got one artist to kind of make this entire soundtrack, and it's very like, as I was saying earlier, very intentional thematically. What's your ideal post-grad career? Who in your family or which teacher at school influenced you greatly? Your astrological sign and blood type. Besides cinemas, what are other activities you like and enjoy? Favorite food and cuisine? Favorite snack when watching cinemas? Food, cuisine, drink that you would like to try but haven't? Countries that you would like to visit but haven't? Biggest fear? Your view on death or after death? Any pet? Wow, okay. I'm gonna try to do this. I am kind of working at the moment to pivot towards working in the film industry more, maybe in like the realm of programming or in like film criticism. I'm not sure which, but you know, I am trying to kind of move in that direction just to, you know, for some stability. YouTube's not going to be around forever, and that's something I just would like to be. I'd also like to be in a more social industry. Honestly, YouTube is pretty alienating, but I do want to keep up the channel as well. So we're going to see how that goes. Many teachers influenced me. I can't really name them specifically because I also don't want to like dox them. I don't know. My astrological sign is Virgo. I don't know my blood type. I like oil painting, but I'm horrifically terrible at it. In terms of favorite food, my mom makes jerk chicken a lot. So I guess that, because it's like comforting. My favorite movie snack is peanut M&Ms. Peanut M&M supremacy. I don't know of any cuisines I haven't tried. I honestly haven't thought about that enough. In terms of countries I want to visit, I would love to go to Jordan. I'd also like to go to Iceland. I used to have an irrational fear of buttons as a kid. I've grown out of that. I don't want to say my actual fears because then they'll come true. So, I'm unsure about death. I know I'm scared of it. I have a cat named Mooney. 50% off Criterion sale happening at Barnes & Noble. What are you picking up? That's a good question. I'm gonna sound like a huge plebe with these answers. I just haven't seen most of the Criterion films. These are the ones I like though. So I'd get Life of Brian, Grey Gardens, Virgin Suicides, Pickpocket, Monsoon Wedding, that was formative for me as a child, Being John Malkovich, Frances Ha, and Midnight Cowboy. What did you do before you started YouTube? I was a lowly student. After I graduated, I worked for a year at like a cafe and a restaurant. I also interned at a couple places. I interned at this like immigrant like employment council, and I also interned at a trend forecasting agency, which was really cool. Why do you not engage the comment section on YouTube? Because it's a deep dark hole from hell.